Have you ever felt that gnawing sensation in your gut? That quiet voice inside telling you something isn't quite right? But you push it aside because surely you must be imagining things. Because how could someone who claims to love you, someone who shows up with bright smiles and warm embraces, be deliberately playing with your emotions? I want you to close your eyes for a moment. Think back to a time when you felt completely confused about your own feelings, questioning your own reality, wondering if perhaps you were being too sensitive or imagining things. Hold on to that feeling, because today we're going to shine a light into those dark corners of doubt and uncertainty. The truth about emotional manipulation is both simpler and more complex than most people realize. It's simpler because at its core, it's about control. But it's more complex because it often comes wrapped in the guise of love, concern, or it's like a beautifully wrapped package that when opened, contains nothing but smoke and mirrors. You see, emotional manipulation isn't always as dramatic as we might imagine. It's rarely the loud arguments or obvious cruelty that we see in movies. Instead, it's often subtle, like water slowly dripping on a stone, wearing away at your confidence, your self-trust, and your understanding of reality itself. Let me share something with you. In my years of working with people from all walks of life, I've noticed a pattern. Those who are most vulnerable to emotional manipulation are often the ones with the biggest hearts. The ones who always try to see the best in others. The ones who give second chances, third chances, fourth chances, and because they believe in the power of love and understanding, right? Here's what we need to understand. Being kind-hearted is not the same as being a doormat. Having compassion for others doesn't mean we should sacrifice our own emotional well-being. The universe didn't create you to be someone else's emotional punching bag. Emotional manipulation takes many forms. Sometimes it's the subtle guilt trip. If you really loved me, you would. Sometimes it's the masterful twist of reality. That never happened. You're just being too sensitive. And sometimes it's the quiet erosion of your independence. I'm just worried about you. That's why I need to know where you are every minute of the day. Think about a garden for a moment. A healthy garden needs boundaries. Fences to keep out the creatures that would destroy the tender plants, borders to define spaces, structures to support growth. Your emotional well-being is that garden without proper boundaries, without the ability to recognize when someone is trampling through your emotional space. How can you expect your spirit to flourish? The first step in protecting yourself from emotional manipulation is simply acknowledging its existence. Many of us have been conditioned to doubt ourselves, to question our own perceptions, to prioritize other people's feelings over our own emotional truth. We've been taught that love means always giving, always understanding, always forgiving. But true love, whether it's romantic love, family love, or friendship, should lift you up, not tear you down. Me be clear. Emotional manipulation is not about mistakes or misunderstandings. We all have moments when we react from our wounds, when we say things we don't mean, when we let our fears get the better of us. That's part of being human. What we're talking about here is a pattern, a conscious or unconscious strategy of control that slowly dims your inner light. You might be sitting here thinking, but how can I be sure? Maybe I'm just being paranoid. Maybe I'm the one with the problem. This self-doubt, this second-guessing, it's exactly what emotional manipulators count on. They depend on your uncertainty, your desire to be fair, your willingness to take responsibility even for things that aren't your fault. But here's the truth that might shake you to your core. Your feelings are valid. Your perceptions matter. Your reality counts. When someone consistently makes you question your own experiences, when they rewrite history to make themselves look better, when they use your vulnerabilities against you, that's not love. That's not friendship. That's not family. That's manipulation. The impact of emotional manipulation goes far beyond momentary confusion or hurt feelings. It seeps into every aspect of your life. It affects how you see yourself, how you interact with others, how you approach new relationships. It's like wearing tinted glasses. Everything you see becomes colored by that manipulation. I've seen strong, capable people reduced to shells of their former selves because they couldn't recognize or didn't want to acknowledge the manipulation in their lives. I've watched brilliant minds doubt their own intelligence, loving hearts question their capacity for love, and confident souls shrink into uncertainty, all because someone they trusted played with their feelings like they were puppet strings. Recognition is the first step toward liberation. When you begin to see the patterns, when you start to trust your gut feelings, when you learn to recognize the red flags, that's when transformation becomes possible. That's when healing can begin. As we continue this journey together, I want you to remember something crucial. Your worth is not determined by someone else's ability to see it. Your reality is not defined by someone else's manipulation of it. Your truth doesn't need anyone else's validation to be real. The path we're about to walk together isn't just about learning to spot manipulation. It's about reclaiming your power, rediscovering your voice, and remembering who you were always meant to be. It's about standing in your truth, even when others try to shake your foundation. It's about learning to trust yourself again, even if you spent years doubting your own judgment. When you can spot the signs of emotional manipulation, when you can stand firm in your truth, when you can maintain healthy boundaries without guilt, that's when you become truly unstoppable. That's when you can create relationships based on genuine love and respect, not control and manipulation. So let's begin this journey together. Let's explore the subtle signs, the hidden patterns, and the powerful tools that will help you protect your emotional well-being. Because you deserve relationships that enhance your life, not diminish it. You deserve connections that celebrate your truth, not deny it. You deserve to live in the full light of your authentic self, not in the shadows of someone else's manipulation. Now let's delve into one of the most insidious forms of emotional manipulation, gaslighting. The term itself might be relatively new to some of you, but the experience it describes is as old as human relationships themselves. It's like being in a room where someone keeps dimming the lights so gradually that you begin to doubt whether it was ever truly bright at all. Imagine walking through your home, a place you know intimately. Every corner, every creaking floorboard, every shadow is familiar to you. Now imagine someone moving things slightly, just slightly, and then insisting nothing has changed. When you notice, they tell you you're being forgetful. When you persist, they suggest maybe you're being paranoid. When you stand firm in your conviction, they sigh and give you that look that says, poor you. You're losing your grip on reality. That's gaslighting. It's a slow erosion of your confidence in your own perception of reality. It's like someone taking an eraser to your memories, slowly smudging the lines between what you know happened and what they tell you happened. The true danger of gaslighting lies in its subtlety. It rarely comes as a sudden assault on your reality. Instead, it's more like a gentle mist that slowly soaks into your clothes until you're drenched in self-doubt. The gaslighter might say things like, I never said that, when you clearly remember their words. They might respond to your concerns with, you're just too sensitive, or you always exaggerate everything. They might even deny events that you witnessed with your own eyes. But here's what makes gaslighting particularly devastating. It targets your relationship with yourself. When someone physically hurts you, you can see the bruises. When someone verbally abuses you, you can hear the harsh words. But gaslighting, it makes you doubt your own mind. It makes you question your memories, your perceptions, your very understanding of reality. Think about what happens to a tree when its roots are constantly disturbed. It becomes unstable, unable to grow properly, vulnerable to every strong wind that blows. That's what gaslighting does to your psychological foundation. It disturbs your roots, your basic trust in your own perceptions and judgments. The gaslighter often positions themselves as the voice of reason, the stable one, the one who really knows what's going on. They might even express concern about your mental state, suggesting that your confusion or overreaction is something to worry. They might share their concerns with others, gradually building a narrative that paints you as unreliable, unstable, or irrational. But let me tell you something powerful. Your memories are real. Your feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid. Your perceptions matter. When someone tries to convince you otherwise, they're not trying to help you, they're trying to control you. The psychological impact of gaslighting runs deep. It's like having someone slowly rewrite your life story, but changing all the important parts. You might find yourself constantly apologizing for things that aren't your fault. You might start prefacing your statements with, I might be wrong, or maybe I'm just crazy, but You might begin to feel like you need this person to help you understand your own reality. This is not your fault. Gaslighters are often master manipulators who have honed their skills over years. They know exactly how to play on your doubts, how to exploit your desire to be fair and reasonable, how to use your own compassion against you. Many of us have been conditioned to seek harmony, to avoid conflict, to try to understand others' perspectives. These are beautiful qualities, but they can make us vulnerable to gaslighting. We might think, well, maybe they're right. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I did misremember that conversation. And each time we doubt ourselves, the gaslighter's power grows stronger. But here's the truth. That can set you free. Your reality is valid. Your memories are real. Your feelings are legitimate. When someone consistently tries to make you question these fundamental truths, they're not trying to help you see things more clearly. They're trying to make you see things their way. Think of your mind as a beautiful garden. Your memories, perceptions, and understanding of reality are the flowers you've grown through your experiences. A gaslighter is like someone who comes into your garden and tells you that your roses are actually weeds, that the beautiful arrangement you created is actually chaos, that your careful tending is actually neglect. The first step in protecting yourself from gaslighting is simply this. Trust yourself. Trust your memories. Trust your perceptions. Trust your feelings. Yes, we all make mistakes. Yes, we all misremember things sometimes. But when someone consistently tells you that your reality is wrong, when they repeatedly dismiss your feelings, when they constantly rewrite history, that's not about mistakes. That's about control. Start keeping a record, not to show them, but to anchor yourself in reality. Write down important conversations. Note significant events. Document the things that matter to you. Not because you're paranoid, but because your truth deserves to be Learn to recognize the common phrases gaslighters say. You're too sensitive. That never happened. You're imagining things. No one else has a problem with this. You're making a big deal out of nothing. These phrases are like red flags waving in the wind. When you hear them consistently, questioning your reality is not the same as seeking to understand different perspectives. When someone genuinely wants to understand your point of view, they listen, they engage, they consider, they don't dismiss, deny, or degrade your experiences. As we move forward in our exploration of emotional manipulation, carry this truth with you. Your reality is yours. No one has the right to rewrite your experiences, to dismiss your feelings, or to make you doubt your own mind. You are the author of your story, the keeper of your truth, the guardian of your reality. The light in your room was always bright. Someone else was just trying to convince you otherwise. And now that you can see their hand on the dimmer switch, you can begin to reclaim your power, your truth, and your reality. Now that we understand the nature of emotional manipulation and gaslighting, let's shine a light on the specific signs that someone might be playing with your feelings. These red flags are like nature's warning signals. Just as a brightly colored poison dart frog warns us of danger, these behaviors warn us of emotional toxicity. Consider this. In nature, animals develop keen instincts about danger. They don't need to analyze or debate. They feel it in their bones when something isn't right. You have these same instincts. That feeling in your gut, that slight tension in your shoulders, that nagging doubt in the back of your mind. These are your emotional warning systems at work. One of the most telling signs is inconsistency. Not the natural inconsistency that comes with being human, but the kind that leaves you feeling like you're trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. Their words don't match their actions. Their promises evaporate like morning dew. Their stories shift like sand in the wind. One day they're full of praise and affection. The next they're cold and distant, and there's no apparent reason for the change. Watch carefully for the pattern of selective memory. They'll remember with perfect clarity the one time you let them down, but conveniently forget their own repeated betrayals. They'll recall exactly what you said in anger 6 months ago, but can't seem to remember their promises from yesterday. This selective memory isn't a quirk. It's a tool of control. Pay attention to how they handle your emotions. Do they dismiss your feelings with phrases like you're being dramatic, or why do you always have to make everything so complicated? Do they turn your emotional responses against you, using them as proof that you're unstable or This invalidation is like acid rain on the garden of your self-trust. Notice how they respond to boundaries. Healthy relationships respect boundaries like garden fences. They understand their purpose and importance. Manipulators treat boundaries like personal insults. They push against them, slip around them, or try to make you feel guilty for having them at all. Why don't you trust me? They'll ask, making your perfectly reasonable need for space seem like a character flaw. Listen to how they talk about others. Do they have a pattern of being the victim in every story? Are all their ex-partners crazy? Or all their former friends betrayers? This pattern is like a preview of coming attractions. Eventually, you'll likely be cast in the same role in their narrative. Body language speaks volumes, but it's not just about reading their signals. It's about noticing how their presence affects your own body language. Do you find yourself physically shrinking in their presence? Do you feel the need to make yourself smaller or less noticeable? Do you catch yourself walking on eggshells, measuring every word, every gesture? Your body often recognizes danger before your conscious mind catches up. Watch for the subtle art of blame shifting. Nothing is ever their fault. If they hurt you, it's because you provoked them. If they forgot something important, it's because you didn't remind them enough times. If they broke a promise, it's because you didn't make it clear enough how important it was. This constant deflection of responsibility is like a magic trick. Now you see the problem, now it's somehow your fault. Pay attention to how they handle your successes and joys. Do they find ways to diminish your achievements? Do they manage to make your moments of triumph about them somehow? Do they find subtle ways to compete with you or one-up you? True support amplifies your light. Manipulation tries to dim it. Notice the pattern of moving goalposts. No matter what you do, it's never quite enough. You meet one expectation and suddenly there's another one you didn't know about. You jump through one hoop and there's always another one waiting. It's like playing a game where the rules keep changing and somehow you're always losing. Be aware of the tools they use. They guilt, shame, obligation, comparison. After all I've done for you, if you really cared, everyone else would understand. These phrases are like emotional weapons designed to make you doubt yourself and comply with their wishes. Watch for the pattern of isolation. Do they find subtle ways to distance you from your support system? Do they plant seeds of doubt about your friends and family? Do they make it increasingly difficult for you to maintain independent relationships? This isolation isn't about protecting you, it's about controlling you. Pay attention to how they handle privacy and personal information. Do they share things you've told them in confidence? Do they use your vulnerabilities against you? Do they collect your secrets like ammunition, bringing them out at strategic moments to gain the upper? Trust is like a mirror. Once cracked, it distorts everything you see. Notice how they respond to your growth and independence. Do they support your evolution, or do they seem threatened by it? Do they encourage your dreams, or do they find ways to make them seem unrealistic or selfish? True love wants you to grow. Manipulation wants you to stay small and manage. Be mindful of the cycle of intensity. Do they rush into emotional intimacy? Do they push for quick commitment? Do they love bomb you with attention and affection only to withdraw it suddenly? This emotional roller coaster isn't passion, is manipulation. Watch for the weaponization of your insecurities. If you've shared your fears about abandonment, do they threaten to leave when they're angry? If you've told them about your struggles with self-worth, do they make subtle digs about those very issues? This isn't coincidence. It's calculated. Pay attention to your own emotional state. Are you constantly second-guessing yourself? Do you feel like you're losing your grip on reality? Do you find yourself making excuses for their behavior to others? These are not signs of your weakness. They're signs of their manipulation. Remember, manipulators often don't show all their cards at once. They're like skilled poker players, revealing just enough to keep you in the game, hiding their true hand until they've got you fully invested. That's why it's crucial to pay attention to these early warning signs, these subtle red flags that wave in the gentle breeze before the storm arrives. Your instincts are not your enemies. Your doubts are not your weaknesses. Your questions are not your flaws. They are your inner wisdom trying to protect you, trying to guide you toward truth and authenticity. Learn to listen to them, honor them, trust them. Now that we can recognize the signs of emotional manipulation, let's talk about something equally important: protecting yourself. Setting boundaries isn't just about saying I, it's about saying yes to your own well-being, your own truth, your own integrity. Think of boundaries as the immune system of your emotional well-being. Just as your physical immune system protects you from harmful invaders, your emotional boundaries protect you from psychological invasion. But here's the thing about boundaries. They're not walls. They're not meant to isolate you. They're meant to protect you while still allowing genuine connection. The first step in setting boundaries is understanding that you have the right to have them. This might sound obvious, but for many of us, it's a revolutionary concept. We've been conditioned to believe that having boundaries is selfish, that always being available is loving, that putting others first is noble. But here's the truths. Boundaries aren't selfish. They're sacred. Let me share something profound with you. Your energy is precious. Your time is precious. Your emotional well-being is precious. You don't need to justify protecting these things. You don't need to explain why you need space, why you say no, why you... Your need for boundaries is as natural as your need for air. Setting boundaries starts with clarity, and clarity about what you will and won't accept in your life. This isn't about making demands or controlling others. It's about being clear about what you need to maintain your emotional health. It's like setting the thermostat in your home. You're not controlling the weather outside. You're maintaining a healthy environment inside. When you begin to set boundaries, be prepared for resistance. Those who have grown accustomed to crossing your boundaries won't welcome these new limits. They might accuse you of being different, of changing, of not being the person they used to know. And you know what? They're right. You are changing, you're growing, you're evolving, and that's not just okay. It's essential. Learning to communicate boundaries effectively is an art. It requires clarity without aggression, firmness without hostility. You don't need to shout your boundaries from the rooftops, but you do need to state them clearly and stand by them consistently. Think of it like drawing a line in the sand. You don't need to build a wall, but you do need to make the line visible. You can set boundaries with love. In fact, the most loving thing you can do, both for yourself and others, is to be clear about your limits. When you set boundaries with love, you're saying, I care about this relationship enough to be honest about what I need to keep it healthy. Develop what I call boundary vocabularies, where simple phrases that express your limits without apology or excessive explanation. This doesn't work for me. I'm not comfortable with that. I need space to think about this. It's not something I'm willing to do. These aren't just phrases. They're declarations of self-respect. Manipulators often use urgency as a weapon against boundaries. They'll try to rush you, pressure you, make you feel like you need to decide right now. But healthy relationships can handle the pause, can respect the need for reflection, can honor the space between question and answer. Learn to recognize and honor your emotional signals. When something feels off, when your stomach tightens, when your shoulders tense, these are your personal boundary alerts. They're like the warning lights on your car's dashboard. Ignore them at your own risk. Develop what I call a protection protocol, a set of practices that help you maintain your emotional well-being. This might include daily reflection time, regular check-ins with trusted friends, journaling, meditation, or any practice that helps you stay connected to your truth. One of the most powerful boundary-setting tools is the pause. When someone is pushing against your boundaries, when you feel pressured or manipulated, pause. Take a breath. Take 10 breaths. Take a day. You don't have to respond immediately. You don't have to decide right now. You have the right to take the time you need to honor your truth. Create what I call a circle of trust. A small group of people who know your truth, who support your boundaries, who can help you stay anchored when manipulators try to distort your reality. These aren't just friends. They're your emotional truth witnesses. Learn to distinguish between guilt and responsibility. Guilt is what manipulators use to make you question your boundaries. Responsibility is what you use to maintain them. When you feel guilty about setting a boundary, ask yourself, Is this guilt coming from a healthy place of responsibility, or is it coming from manipulation? Develop your energy awareness. Learn to recognize how different people and situations affect your energy levels. Some people lift you up, some drain you dry. This isn't about judgment, it's about awareness. You have the right to protect your energy, to limit exposure to people and situations that deplete you. Remember this? Aren't punishment. They're not weapons. They're not walls. They're guidelines for healthy interaction. They're like the banks of a river. They don't stop the flow. They direct it in a healthy way. Regularly ask yourself, are my current boundaries serving me? Are they protecting my well-being? Are they allowing for healthy connection while preventing harmful invasion? Boundaries aren't static. They can and should evolve as you grow. Understand that setting boundaries isn't just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to yourself, yes to your well-being, yes to your growth, yes to your truth, yes to your right to exist as you are, not as others want you to be. And perhaps most importantly, remember, your boundaries are not up for debate. They're not negotiable terms. They're not starting points for discussion. They're declarations of your self-worth, expressions of your self-respect, manifestations of your... And anyone who consistently tries to violate them is showing you exactly why you need them. As we come to the final part of our journey together, let's talk about healing and reclaiming your power. Because recognizing manipulation, understanding gaslighting, identifying red flags, and setting boundaries, these are all crucial steps, but they're not the end of the story. They're the beginning of your transformation. Think of healing as tending to a garden after a storm. Some plants may be bent, some flowers might be broken, but the soil, your core essence, remains fertile with possibility. The storm may have passed through, but it doesn't define what can grow in it. First, let's talk about reframing. Every experience you've had with manipulation, every moment of gaslighting, every boundary violation, these weren't signs of your weakness. They were opportunities for awakening. Not because they were good, but because they brought you here to this moment of awareness and transformation. Your journey of healing begins with a profound truth. You don't need to understand why someone chose to manipulate you. You don't need to figure out their motivations or justify their actions. Your healing isn't about them. It's about you. It's about reclaiming your story, your truth, your power. Start by reconnecting with yourself. Manipulation creates a disconnect between you and your inner wisdom. It's like static on a radio. It makes it hard to hear your own inner station. Sit in silence for a few minutes each day. Journal your thoughts without censorship. Listen to the whispers of your intuition. Healing isn't linear. It's not a straight path from hurt to healed. It's more like the spiral of a seashell. You might revisit old territories, but each time you do, you're at a different level. Don't judge yourself for having setbacks. Don't criticize yourself for still feeling the pain sometimes. Each emotion is a sign that you're alive, that you're processing, that you're growing. Develop what I call a truth practice, is a daily commitment to honoring your own perceptions and feelings. Start each day by asking yourself, what's true for me today? What do I really feel? What do I really need? Let your answers be your guide, not someone else's expectations. Build your empowerment toolkits, practices and resources that help you stand strong in your truth. This might include affirmations, but not the superficial kind. I'm talking about deep personal truths. My feelings are valid. My perceptions matter. My boundaries deserve respect. I trust my intuition. Learn to distinguish between solitude and isolation. Isolation is what manipulators impose to control you. Solitude is what you choose to nourish yourself. Make friends with solitude. Use it as a space to reconnect with your own voice, your own wisdom, your own truth. Create what I call power anchors, reminders of your strength and resilience. These might be physical objects, photographs, written words, or simply memories of times when you stood strong, when you survived, when you thrived. Let these anchors ground you when waves of doubt try to wash you away. Practice radical self-compassion. Understand that being manipulated doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. Having your feelings played with doesn't make you foolish. It makes you someone who was willing to trust, to love, to believe in others. These aren't flaws. They're features of your humanity. Develop a new relationship with trust, not by becoming permanently suspicious, but by becoming wisely discerning. Trust isn't an all-or-nothing proposition. It's not about never trusting again. It's about learning to trust wisely, including trusting yourself to recognize when something isn't right. Create what I call truth circles, relationships and environments where you can be fully yourself, where your reality is respected, where your feelings are validated. These circles become your safe harbors, places where you can drop the anchor of your truth without fear of it being dismissed or denied. Learn to celebrate your sensitivity. In a world that often tries to numb us, your ability to feel deeply is a gift. Yes, it can make you vulnerable to manipulation, but it also makes you capable of profound connection, deep understanding, and genuine empathy. The goal isn't to become less sensitive. It's to become more discerning. Practice what I call emotional sovereignty, the right to own your feelings without explanation or justification. Your emotions are your internal weather system. You don't need to justify why it's raining in your heart any more than you need to justify why it's raining out. Develop your inner counsel, the wise parts of yourself that you can turn to for guidance, your intuition, your experience, your wisdom, your truth. These are your most trusted advisors. Learn to listen to them above the noise of manipulation and doubt. You are not here to be someone else's emotional playground. You are not here to be manipulated, controlled, or diminished. You are here to grow, to thrive, to shine your unique light into the world. Your healing journey isn't just about recovering from manipulation. It's about discovering who you are beyond it. It's about understanding that while someone may have played with your feelings, they didn't change your fundamental worth. They didn't diminish your capacity for joy, for love, for growth. As we close our time together, I want you to hold on to this truth. The very fact that you're here listening, learning, growing, that's not just resilience. That's not just survival. That's triumph. Every step you take toward understanding manipulation, every boundary you set, every truth you reclaim, these are victories. You are not defined by what was done to you. You are defined by how you rise, how you reclaim your truth, how you choose to move forward. Your story didn't end with manipulation. That was just one chapter. You are the author of what comes next. And what comes next is entirely up to you. Because now you know. Now you can see. Now you can feel the difference between manipulation and genuine connection, between control and love, between someone playing with your feelings and someone honoring them. You are not broken. You are not damaged. You are not permanently scarred by manipulation. You are awakening. You are growing. You are becoming more fully yourself. And that is the most beautiful transformation of all. Let this be the moment when you decide your feelings are not a playground for others. They are the sacred territory of your soul. Guard them wisely, honor them deeply, share them carefully, and always, always remember, you have the right to feel what you feel, to know what the light within you is never dimmed. It was only covered. And now with every truth you reclaim, with every boundary you set, with every step you take toward healing, that light shines brighter than ever before. Let it shine. Let it guide you. Let it lead you home to yourself.